talk, I feel like I'm going to describe Zipcar and a little bit of the startup piece, and I'll leave some time for question and answers at the end. So if you want to ask questions around starting up, please do that. But the first half will be a little bit about Zipcar, and then I want to move towards what can we extract from that so you can do your own companies? Where would you look for doing new startups and innovation and moving this along? So it's a kind of two-part piece. So scarcity and abundance. I do feel that we're living in these times of this huge anxiety, and I think actually it's the human condition that we all have this huge fear of scarcity. We're trying to put ourselves and our families and our society into this abundance. It's this constant long-term drive that we have. And today, I feel, we're having this pressure of too little space in terms of human population. Too many people. This photo is from Lahore, Lagos. Too many cars. There are so many pictures of slides of photographs of cars I didn't even bother. There's so many to choose from, so much traffic, too many CO2 emissions, and I want to say probably a half of my professional life is trying to address the issues of global warming from a business perspective. Not enough money. I feel like in the US in the last year and around the world last year, there's been this calamitous collapse. And I think even as individuals, as companies, and as governments, we are feeling this kind of this binding, not enough money to do what we really would like to see done. So we live in this highly dynamic world, and as an entrepreneur, where there's a problem, that's a fabulous thing because it means there's an opportunity. And in fact, I can't tell whether I'm optimistic or pessimistic. I feel like I'm a realist. And when I say that problems are opportunities, maybe that's the optimistic side, but it is true from an entrepreneurial standpoint. What is the job of any kind of product or service? It's to solve a problem. That's why we want that thing, is to solve a problem. So we certainly in this world today have a lot of problems. So this is fabulous opportunities for all of us. And thankfully, we live in this highly dynamic world. So the status quo that has built what we have today, it's broken. Things are moving very, very quickly. And that means we all have the opportunities to make these changes and make the world a better place. Thank goodness, we aren't stuck with what's happened. We're really moving ahead quickly. So it's a moment of opportunity for all of us. So an opportunity that one of my solutions to a problem was Zipcar. The idea, what's striking, when the Harvard Business School did the business case, what was fascinating was I hadn't fully appreciated until that moment that this was an idea that came, that while we were successful, we took from someone else. This is an idea that had been happening in Europe for about 10 years before we started. And we saw this idea, we imported it to the US, we applied new technology and new branding, and it completely changed it. So just when you're thinking about ideas, you don't have to think of something brand new yourself. You can think of something that's being done elsewhere or being done poorly, and you can bring it together and do it a much better job. So, Zipcar. We founded it in the fall of, I had my business partner, and I can say my business partner brought the idea to me. We were sitting in a cafe in Boston, and she said, so Robin, she was sitting in Berlin, in a cafe in Berlin, and she saw this service across the street. And she came and told me, what do you think of this? And I want to say I felt very much just like Einstein, that the light bulb went over my head, it really did, and I thought this is what the internet is made for, sharing a resource, single resources among many, many people, and that this is what wireless technology can enable. So it was a moment, and why I'm describing this is because I felt like I really was the right person at the right moment to hear this idea. And I think in each one of you, you have a certain group of experiences that are going to make you the exact right person to do something. So all of your life experiences, the good and the bad, come together when you're doing a startup, and you use every single piece of everything you know, and you can be the right person to do it. So the need, why there was a pain and why there was an opportunity, is when we live in dense urban areas, cars are very, very expensive. There's a lot of traffic, and parking is very difficult. So many people who live in cities are using other methods of getting to work or to school. So their car, a very expensive asset, is being used a few times a week and is sitting there idly. They don't need to use it to get to work. So our vision was making renting a car as easy and convenient as getting cash from an ATM machine. This sentence took me about 6 months to come up with the right words, because as an entrepreneur, we were starting something that was totally novel in the US. No one had ever heard of this concept at all. And we had to get people to start thinking about what it was. And so here, as easy and convenient as getting cash from an ATM is something that they are throughout dense metropolitan areas. There's no human between you and your cash. You just go up and you can get the cash 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, something that happens very, very quickly in a few seconds. And that is the way that we dealt with cars, is that they're parked throughout these dense metropolitan areas, and you can get them on demand by the hour and by the day. So here is a picture of a colleague of mine. You make a reservation online or by telephone for a specific car in a specific parking location. And that reservation takes you literally about 30 seconds. The wireless, that information goes wirelessly from the server to the car, and each member is given a card. They hold the card on the windshield, and that unlocks the door, enables the ignition, opens the billing record, and people drive round trip and go back to that same parking space. There's a fuel card in the car, and when it gets to a quarter tank, the person who's driving the car fills it up with gas using our fuel card. So I'm hoping everyone understands now what Zipcar is as a concept. And here is a nice little series that we put. So the idea was simplicity. So you reserve by the hour, the cars are nearby. Very, very quickly in Boston, 500,000 people were within a 5-minute walk of a Zipcar. You unlock the car and away you drive. This is a friend, Farouk, this is for you. This is my friend Stephen Oakley, who is one of my staff members. And here, two doing things that are different, and how disruptive this service was. When I was raising money for this, everyone said to me, oh my God, it'll never work in the US. Sure, those Swiss will do it, those Europeans, but you know, we Americans, we love our cars, and we're not like that. Our cars are our egos, and it'll never work. And I said, actually, I think there's a real demand, there's a real problem. People don't like spending $8,000 a year on their cars, and we need the service. And to a marketing point, which is why I'm talking about this, unlike car rental, if you can remember car rental, it's totally unsigned. It just looks like a car like every other car. And I wanted our cars to have signage on them. So it says zipcar.com, wheels when you want them. On the passenger side door, there's a logo. And this was very counterintuitive for everybody in the marketing industry, and they thought I was crazy. And I said, no, I'm going to brand this company so that you will feel proud and excited to be in this car. It will make you feel like you're a member of the right group. And indeed, this worked, that these cars do go around. People do feel pride because they are the smarter ones, because they figured out the economics of car ownership are such that if you're driving this car instead of owning your own, you're the smart person. And it's very cool brand. And if you're urban and cool and smart, this is what you would do. So what do people use the cars for? Another thing I was always so amused, I would get asked all the time, so what do you do with the car? And I would think, what a stupid question. You would do the same thing with this car as you do with any other kind of car, you know? So here's a picture of an architect who took the photo for me. None of these photos are ones that we took from the company. And he architects, they work downtown, they take public transportation into downtown, or they're a small business, and they use zip cars to go do client and site visits, and they don't have to pay for the parking when they come back, and they don't have to have a small company car all the time. Here is a picture of a student who's using a zip car. She went shopping. We encourage this very strong relationship between the company and our users. I would ask them all the time for stories because I wanted them all to be rooting for me and giving me good feedback and yes, go ahead. And so she wrote a story online called The Day in the Life of Mini Mia, we named all of our cars with names. And so this is a Mini Cooper named Mini Mia. And so she took photos and described what she did all day. So I just took this off the website of her. Here's a person who got married and had to use a zip car because, and this has happened, I have to say, many, many times. This is one story, but this is a story that's happened many times, is that a person wants to impress his girlfriend, and so he joined Zipcar so he could drive a nice car, and to propose to her, he took a small apple tree, a seedling, and he put it in the trunk of the car, and he drove to the beach with his girlfriend, and he took the tree out and proposed to her on the beach, and said, I hope our love grows like this tree. So when he got married, he had to use the zip car for this wedding. And that's why the photo is so terrible, because it was probably taken by their mother-in-law. Here is another photo that, for me, I have 3 children, and this is the most shocking of all the photos we ever got sent. This is a person who just had her first child ever, so her firstborn child, and as she's leaving the hospital, her husband says, honey, let's take a photo and mail it to Zipcar. So that's why they have the car door open and with the baby that's just 24 hours old to send to us. Here's a picture of a child that's aging. So people use Zipcars as a fraction of a second car. Many people have one car that's used perhaps by whoever is driving to work. And this Zipcar is the fraction of a second car. If you just leave a small piece of a second car, this is one. So what is the result? Let me go back here because I want to tee you up for this. We have in our minds, I have to say one more thing. I believe marketing is everything. We can make people buy anything and do any type of behaviors with marketing. And I fret, actually, when I'm feeling very pessimistic. We are so skilled at marketing that we know we can sell people really bad things. And in the political realm, it's very frightening to me how very good marketing can make people vote for the wrong person. So in my depressed times, I feel very scared about the skill of marketing. But the upside is we can use marketing for good. And so with Zipcar, and to this US market, how could I persuade people that Zipcar was a smarter, clever thing to do than owning your own car? How can I make people really believe that? Because I deeply believe that using these cars is better than using your own car. So when you have your own car, you only get to drive one. You drive that same car no matter what kind of errand you're going on or what type of life stage you are. So I right now have a very ugly and 8-year-old minivan, which is an embarrassment for me to be driving around because I'm very cool and very smart, and for me to be driving in this awful car is an embarrassment. But because I only get to own 1 or 2, that's it, my choice is over. I bought it when my children were very young, and now that's the way it is. With Zipcar, I can own a car for every different purpose. So as I told you, if I want to impress my spouse, I can get the Mini Cooper convertible. If I want to impress my business colleague, I can drive the BMW. If I want to go to the hardware or lumber store and buy some wood, I can take the pickup truck. So this is something that you can't do with your own car. Secondly, with this kind of service, I don't ever have to do any maintenance. I never have to, if it gets in a